Hey, so another video today. Today we're going to be talking about Jojolands, the ninth part of Jojo, and I absolutely love Jojo. I mean, the series as a whole I think is fantastic. Part 7 specifically is my favorite manga of all time. So, I think I'm pretty invested in this series, and I just wanted to talk about what I want to see in Jojolands. Not predictions, because predicting what Araki's going to do is a bit of a challenge here, so we're just going to be talking about my overall wants for this part and what I think needs to be there as well. As for when this part will release, I have no idea. I think it's safe to say that they'll probably wait until Crazy Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak, which is very good. If you haven't read it yet, I'd definitely check it out. I think they'll wait until that's finished, and it looks like there's probably a few chapters of that left, although it is really hard to tell how much longer it'll go on. They could definitely introduce a whole new plot element that keeps it going for another year or something. Starting off with what we already know about Part 9, I think it's fair to assume that Josuke will show up again. I mean, at the end of Part 8, he still had a clear goal in mind, that being to revive Holly, take her out of her coma at least. Um, and he did not accomplish that by the end of Part 8. However, he said something super interesting. I believe he said that there were the Rokakaka may have been eliminated in Japan, but it still exists, primarily in New Guinea, I believe it was what he said. So I think it's very safe to assume that Josuke will play at least some role in the next part. And speaking of that, the structure of Part 9 is what I wanted to get into. Um, so I think this is going to be another, like, traveling around the world type of thing that we had. Um, we saw that in parts 2 and 3. Part 7 also had that structure, although it was only in the US, so it's not technically around the world, but you know what I mean. So I think we're going to see that, as New Guinea was clearly mentioned. So my personal want, this isn't a prediction, this is the closest thing to a prediction you're going to get, though, is that it's going to be a traveling across the globe type of thing. Maybe it could start in. Actually, I have no idea where it's going to start. Um, but it'll start somewhere. Probably not Japan, because that's not like a super huge travel or anything. But probably start somewhere around the world with a new Joestar, which I'll get into. It'll be traveling to New Guinea with I don't know, maybe because of Josuke's actions, the Rokakaka trade is trying to eliminate him and this new Joestar. I think that would be a very cool setup. Just maybe with more actual story than in Part 3, because Part 3 was pretty much just battles, battles, battles. Some story, battles, 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 right? But I'm not worried about that. He's been really good at putting a lot more having a lot more structured story. Ever since Part 4 and Part 7 and 8 especially have a far more structured story. Now, getting into the Joestar of this part, I think it's fair to assume that it'll either be an alternate universe version of either Giorno or Jolene, and I don't think that their genders are set in stone either, because, like, obviously we saw, Jotaro, alternate Jotaro's female in this universe, alternate Koichi, swap genders, so I don't think that's set in stone. And that said, I also don't think their personalities will be even remotely the same. Like, Johnny in Part 7 is the complete opposite of Jonathan, I mean. And I really don't know if it'll be Jorno or Jolene, because obviously in part in part 8 we saw the main character. Obviously I wasn't around, I wasn't reading JoJo uh, when Part 7 ended, but I have to assume most people that were probably thought that alternate universe Joseph would be the next Joestar, but it wasn't. It was Josuke, and obviously pretty early on we saw the alternate universe version of Jotaro, K, and we actually didn't see. Well, we knew Joseph existed in this universe for a long time, but we didn't actually see him until the very end of the series. So I could definitely see it. See our see the main character being an alternate universe version of Jolene, and then maybe we hear about Giorno as like a side character, or a flashback character, or something like that. I could definitely see that happening, or the other way around, because I I think he could definitely do that too, where Giorno's a character, and then we find out about Jolene later. Which then, although that is assuming that this is the final part, because obviously if it isn't, then we'll probably get Giorno, part 9, part 10 would be Jolene, the final part. But I think although I think it's pretty likely that part 9 is the final part, just because of Araki's age, and the fact that, I think 9 parts is just a really good way to end it. Like, you had, I don't know where I'm going with that, but like, the sort of idea of trilogies, like you had parts 1, 2, and 3, that was a planned trilogy. 4, 5, and 6, it definitely seems like that just kind of worked out as a trilogy. But I think 7, 8, and 9 could also work as well. And then getting into the length of part 9, every single JoJo part has been, at the most, only 1 volume shorter than the previous one. But most parts are the same length or longer. Like, if we go through it, this is kind of difficult because some of them are like half volumes, but part 1 was about 4.5 volumes. Part 2 was about, I don't know, I'd say like 6.5, 7. Part 3 was 16. Part 4 was 18. Part 5 was 17. And part 6 was 17. Part 7 was 24. And part 8 was, what was it again, 27. So every single part, most parts are longer than the previous one. But they're at the very least only slightly shorter than the previous part. And ever since part 7, the parts have just been getting longer again. Part 6, 17, part 7, 24, part 8, 27. So I think it's fairly likely that, I'm going to guess that part 9 will run for, it'll run for around 27 volumes. Maybe, I'd say 30, maybe is likely, because it's just been increasing in length, and also, if this is the final part of JoJo, I think it very much makes sense to have it be a lot longer, just because you got to wrap up a lot more plot points then. Because obviously, if part 8 was the final part, I guarantee it would be like at least 4 volumes longer, because there are still a decent amount of plot points that we do need to get to, that I feel are going to be brought up again. I don't think there are Rocky Forgot moments. I mean, that's another thing, If you look back at part 1, like, if part 1 was published today, there would be so many people saying, "Oh, Rocky forgot." But, I mean, if you just look at part 2, a lot of the questions of part 1 get answered, so, yeah, that's one thing I don't like, the whole Rocky forgot concept. But anyways, those are my thoughts on part 9. Leave yours in the comments, and if you like the video, make sure to comment, sub, and like. Alright, that's it. Bye.